Welcome back to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. The global trade engine just shifted into overdrive. China's retaliatory tariffs have soared to 125%, and the prospect of a 500% rate has global markets swerving. What began as a tug-of-war between Washington and Beijing is now shaking industries that keep the world moving, from steel to semiconductors. For automakers and enthusiasts alike, these aren't distant headlines. They're the forces shaping the future of every vehicle, battery, and assembly line on the planet. Buckle up, because the road ahead just turned turbulent. When trade tariffs shift into industrial warfare, President Donald Trump reignited one of the fiercest economic rivalries in modern history by launching 100% tariffs on Chinese imports, a sweeping escalation hitting electronics, solar panels, EVs, and medical devices. Framed as payback for Beijing's rare earth export curbs, the move sent markets into a tailspin. Asian indices plunged, the dollar surged, and supply chain futures rattled. This wasn't a minor trade spat. It was industrial warfare. Washington rolled out price floor measures to shield domestic industries, while Beijing countered with tighter rare earth export controls, flexing its grip on materials vital for defense tech, smartphones, and EVs. What made this clash explosive was its speed. Trump declared, "If China wants a fight, America is ready," signaling that compromise was off the table. Overnight, both nations began weaponizing technology and minerals. For automakers and enthusiasts, this isn't just policy. It's the battlefield shaping the future of EVs, chips, and innovation. These tariffs could redefine where vehicles are built and who controls the resources that power them. But this industrial showdown has another front, the resource chokehold that gives China unmatched leverage. China's rare earth grip, from metal to muscle. China refines nearly 90% of the world's rare earth elements, REEs, the metals behind everything from EV motors to smartphones. In early October, Beijing tightened its grip, adding 5 new minerals, holmium, erbium, thulium, europium, and ytterbium, to its export control list, along with advanced refining tech. Starting November 8th, even foreign firms using Chinese materials will need government approval. It's a strategic masterstroke. Rare earths aren't scarce in nature, they're scarce in processing, a game China mastered decades ago. With one policy move, Beijing can now decide who gets supply and who stalls. Washington's reaction was alarmed. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent called it a global supply chain power grab, while Trade Representative Jamieson Greer accused Beijing of weaponizing minerals. Yet both sides are still negotiating ahead of a crucial Trump-Xi summit in South Korea. For automakers, the risk is immediate. EV motors depend on neodymium and dysprosium magnets, mostly refined in China. If exports slow, production could seize up. The next great shortage may not be oil, it may be rare earths. Before we move further, do us a quick favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to Piston Pundit. It helps us reach more auto enthusiasts like you, and keeps the engine running for content like this. Now, let's shift gears and steer into America's counter-strategy. Reshoring and encirclement, America redraws the map. Washington's response to Beijing's mineral dominance is a full-throttle reshaping of global production. The Trump administration launched a $400 billion technological independence plan, building semiconductor plants in Arizona and Ohio, reopening Nevada's lithium mines, and establishing a national rare metal reserve. It's not just economic policy, it's a declaration of industrial sovereignty. Lawmakers have dubbed it economic encirclement, aimed at reducing China's manufacturing control by building parallel supply chains across India, Vietnam, and Mexico. Big players are already reacting. Apple is expanding assembly in India, Tesla is scouting new material hubs in Indonesia, and US-backed chipmakers are ramping up fabrication across Southeast Asia. Friendshoring, however, comes at a price. Economists warn of higher costs and inefficiencies reminiscent of the Cold War. Yet Washington believes resilience outweighs convenience. For automakers, this could redraw the global grid. Cars once stamped "Made in China" may soon read "Assembled in Mexico." Meanwhile, Beijing is strengthening partnerships with Russia, Saudi Arabia, and BRICS, redrawing trade routes at record speed. But while nations strategize, automakers themselves are caught in the middle, and the fallout is just beginning. Automakers in the crossfire, factories, materials, and moves. The global auto industry now finds itself right in the crosshairs of tariff warfare. The biggest shock came when Stellantis announced plans to move Jeep Compass production from Ontario to Illinois, despite receiving $15 billion in Canadian subsidies, to dodge Trump's 25% tariff on vehicles built outside the U.S. The move shook Canada's auto corridor, prompting Prime Minister Mark Carney to call it a betrayal. Across Europe, Germany's automakers are facing similar pressure. Nearly half their EV supply chain relies on Chinese processed minerals, and a prolonged cutoff could trigger a technical recession by spring. Even Toyota and Hyundai are scrambling for magnet alternatives in Australia and Brazil, though experts say scaling will take years. Meanwhile, China's 1 trillion yen Made in China for China initiative is funneling capital into domestic chip and magnet producers, a bold signal that Beijing can outlast the West. For automakers, this decoupling is existential. The EV boom that once unified global production is now fracturing. Just-in-time has turned into just-in-case, and the car, once a symbol of borderless innovation, now mirrors the divides of global trade. And as trade lines harden, all eyes turn to diplomacy, because one wrong turn could reshape the auto world for decades. The road ahead: diplomacy, decoupling, and destiny. As October closes, negotiators are racing to preserve the fragile 90-day truce before its November 10th deadline. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jameson Greer are meeting Vice Premier He Lifeng in Kuala Lumpur, hoping to cool tempers before the Trump-Xi summit in Seoul. Analysts suggest both sides are bluffing for leverage. Trump's 100% tariffs aren't active yet, and China's export controls don't kick in until December 1st. Beijing accuses Washington of gross distortion, while the U.S. calls China's licensing system unworkable, fearing it could one day cover every product containing trace rare earths. For automakers and chipmakers, the uncertainty is brutal. Every investment now revolves around tariff timelines and summit outcomes. The IMF warns that a collapse could shave 0.8% off global GDP, fragmenting supply chains for decades. Trump's recent softer tone, "The USA wants to help China, not hurt it," hints at a possible reset. Yet if both sides dig in, the auto world could split into two ecosystems, one powered by American tech, the other by Chinese minerals. And that brings us to the final lap, where this trade war's outcome may determine who drives the future of mobility. Verdict: the final lap of the supply chain showdown. The ongoing US-China trade clash has become more than politics. It's the defining race of industrial power. Tariffs, export controls, and rare earth restrictions are now tools of competition, and the auto industry is right in the center lane. Every decision made today, from where batteries are sourced to where vehicles roll off the line, will shape the next decade of innovation and pricing. This isn't abstract economics, it's the ignition point of mobility's future. Automakers are redrawing their supply chains, EV makers are recalculating costs, and engineers are reimagining resilience. For enthusiasts and industry watchers alike, this is where economics and engineering meet under the same hood. So what happens next? Will global supply chains hold together or split into rival blocks? Will your next EV still depend on Chinese processed magnets, or shift toward friend-shored materials? And will tariffs drive innovation or raise roadblocks? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Piston Pundit and hit the notification bell for more updates, insights, and the latest shifts steering the automotive world. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you on the next lap. You can now check out any of the videos on screen. There's plenty more to explore.